All right, welcome to our Great Players of the Past class. Today's class is on Hikaru Nakamura. No, I'm just kidding. He was never great. Today's class is on Efim Geller, your favorite Geller. And if not, he's one of the top two. Unfortunately, for Geller, he wasn't as famous as he could have been because he was from Soviet Russia. And in Soviet Russia, chess plays you. So most of the best players that you've heard of from the Soviet Union were world champions. And there was one Olympiad where almost all of their players were world champions. So it's tough to be, tough town. Now, I mentioned Nakamura earlier for obvious reasons, because he's the worst. But I noted that, yeah?
I'm sorry to interrupt the class, but
yeah.
You can barely see your head above the computer. And
okay.
So we just need to adjust it. So can you just turn it a little bit?
Turn what? The computer?
Yeah,
like this?
Yeah, that's even
all
better.
Right.
Thank you.
So, Nakamura's rating went so low after the Olympiad that if he played for Russia, he would not make the team by rating. So you could imagine, since Nakamura was ranked second in the world like a few years ago, and now he's not top 5 in Russia, the Soviet Union was stronger when it was 5,000 countries and they just took from each one. Now that it's just one country, the guy who was second in the world still can't make the team. So Geller didn't play in a ton of Olympiads, but he played in some. Otherwise, they would have Botvinnik and Smyslov and Tal and Petrosian, and I probably missed a world champion. And Bronstein wasn't bad either. Yeah, and these guys are like, what? Who are these people? Spassky, there's a world champion. So you got like an Olympiad of world champions, and then you got Geller, and you're like, who's that? Okay, but Geller was good. And Geller probably in the 50s and 60s was top 5 in the world in being a theoretician. He added a lot to openings, and as you all know, that means they don't know, he contributed to the Geller Gambit, your favorite gambit, because you've heard of it. That's why they haven't heard of it. And that's in the Slav, where on move 4, white sacrifices a pawn. Still played today, by me and against me. Now, Geller beat everybody and then some. He beat several world champions, and we're going to look at some of that. And he beat other people who weren't world champions. Yeah. And he played in the Soviet Championships a lot in the 50s and 60s. Now, as far as I can recollect, which doesn't mean too much, I was at one tournament with Geller at Capelle la Grande, your favorite tournament in France. You may have seen the movie Dunkirk, although I didn't. Mm-hmm. But Capelle la Grande, which is, they have every year for the last 30 years. I played there when I lived in Belgium, and he played in one of those. It's an open tournament, anybody can play. And they would get like 400, 500 players, of which like 70 are grandmasters. Strong tournament. And I remember when he was older, because when I played in Capelle la Grande, he was, long in the tooth. He gained weight and he sat sort of weird at the board, and he was old, so he didn't win the tournament. I mean, you can see he's winning games in the 40s, so in 1992, he wasn't at his peak. Okay, and then there's Geller, looking all Gellery, and then a lot of games in, from 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. Wikipedia has a picture, and this will surprise some of you, but not me. He's at the chessboard in a tournament, and he's smoking. And actually, that was normal until about 89, and then they don't do that. Mm-hmm. And before that, you did that. Yeah, 89, 90, they started saying, okay, don't do that. So this says he won the Soviet Championship twice, 24 years apart. Candidate for the World Championship 6 times, 4 Ukrainian titles, and the World Senior Champion, and was coaching Karpov and Spassky. And yeah, always smoking in all pictures. Truth hurts. Yeah. And not smoking, but not too young there. Man, I saw him 15 years after that. Damn. Then those are his Olympiad scores. He played 7 times in the Olympiad over 28 years. That means he missed half of them, because they have every 2 years. So, whoa, what's happening? I need an adult. Okay. Go away. Stop breaking my stream. Wow, what a crazy nonsense. All right, and then, wow, disconnect. Yeah, my computer just went crazy. Yay! Okay, I uncrazied it. And then this USSR team in the European Team Championship. And this was pretty cool. I saw this a month ago when I was preparing this lecture. This is his score against various grandmasters that you've heard of. You probably haven't heard of 2 or 3 of them, but I heard of them. And plus score, 71 wins, 70 losses against world champion, world champion, world champion, world champion, world champion, world champion, then Bronstein and Keres and Larson. So, pretty good score. And as is well known, I'm sure you all know it, he had a plus score against Fischer. And Fischer talked about that a lot in his 60 memorable games, like, this stupid Geller always beating me. Yeah. Truth hurts. Man, 4 wins and 1 loss against Botvinnik, man. All right, so pretty good. He liked to mix it up and play interesting chess and make exciting for you guys. So that's good. Notable games, there's a lot of them. Yeah. Okay, and he wasn't playing Rufus and Doofus. There's Fischer, like every game's Fischer. So beat Fischer a lot. Tal, Karpov, etc. mainly.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the games, even though ChessBase tried to give me the sugar me do. Okay, so Vasily Smyslov, and what's he known for?
Swap defense?
No.
Dang.
Come on. That wasn't funny at all. Anybody?
This is world champion.
Ugh. She's gonna get it. She's got it.
wait.
No, let her get it.
No, I know it.
No, but let her get it.
I don't know the exact way to say it. I don't have the exact word. Vendreladen or... Oh.
He was at one of your weddings.
There you go. That he got it.
Oh.
He was at my first wedding.
Oh, I was wrong then.
Yeah, that's why he's well known. Now, when he was in his 60s, he played for the candidates for the World Championship, and he lost in the finals to Kasparov. And then Kasparov played Karpov for World Championship. And they were interviewing him. They're like, dude, you're old. How are you winning all these candidates matches? And he said, God told me I'd be world champion again. And the truth hurts. And Kasparov said, well, I'm Kasparov, though. So, yeah. That match didn't work out well for Smyslov. He didn't win any games. But he did win 2 candidates matches in his 60s. So if he had beaten Kasparov, then he would have played Karpov for the World Championship when he was in his 60s. Okay, but he played Geller, and this isn't a Smyslov lecture, this is a Geller lecture, so it's not going to go well for Smyslov. This was in 1965. Now, as all of you know anything? One of the most famous tournaments and tournament books is Zurich 53. He even knows that. He's pretending to nod too. I believe you. And everybody's like, oh, I love that book, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, who won that tournament? Then they're like, what? Everybody read the book. Nobody knows who won the tournament. I'm like, well, everybody likes that book. Who? And there's a cross table of who won the tournament and the book. Who won that tournament?
I don't know.
Exactly. Nobody knows. Smyslov won the tournament. Pretty strong tournament. It was like the 15 best players in the world. So, but anyway, this is 65, and Smyslov was good in the early 80s, so must be good in 65. Okay, so he played a Grunfeld, which was the style at the time. And Geller's always playing the sharpest, most complicated, variations. And this line with bishop c4 at knight e2 was basically the only line that was played in the 60s and 70s. And then in the 80s and 90s, people started playing knight f3 and rook b1 or bishop e2. The idea is black's going to hammer d4 with c5, queen, bishop, knight c6. And if you want to defend this pawn, there's 2 ways to do it with your knight. But if you play knight f3, it's going to eventually get pinned. But if you play knight e2 and the guy pins it, you unpin. So if you're going to play knight e2, it's probably a good idea to move your bishop first, so it's not blocked. All right, and this is still played today. This is still main line. Okay, and this is thousands of Grandmaster games, even now. Okay, and what's funny is Queen c7 was the main line and then it wasn't, and now it is again. Things change. And there was a lot of Karpov-Kasparov games with bishop g4 from more than one of their matches, but probably mainly 87. And of course, the world's leading authorities now on the Grunfeld for black are...
Peter Svidler.
Correct. But how'd you get something right? What? And it's just his initials.
MVL.
MVL, right. Yeah, they're the Grunfeld players, yeah. Okay, so queen c7, rook c1. This is all, like if I push reference, it'll be thousands of games. Okay, and then f4, because Geller's like, you know. Now, when I worked with Hikaru Nakamura in 2011 at the Tal Memorial in Moscow, this is one of the lines we looked at because he was white against Svidler. So, and then Svidler did play the Grunfeld, played something similar, but not this, and Hikaru lost. Then Ivanchuk played the Grunfeld, and it wasn't this variation at all, and also beat Hikaru. So he didn't do well against the Grunfeld. Not good. Now, the reason the Grunfeld is good for you guys at home and you guys here is doesn't look like a draw. It looks like somebody's going to win. It's very complicated, and that's to Geller's liking. He likes tack and sharp and sack stuff. Okay, so e6, trying to defend against d5 and f5. King h1, put it in h. Getting the king very safe. b6, f5, rar. I wonder if he said rar. Knight a5, attacking the bishop. Bishop retreats. Takes, takes. Bishop b7. Again, it just looks like normal Grunfeld kind of position. So basically, in poker terms, white's going all in. White had that really nice center, and now he doesn't. But he's going to checkmate black, or he won't. And then if he doesn't, like d4 is attacked a lot, as we talked about earlier. And black has nice fianchettoed bishops. So black has good counterplay, and white wants to checkmate black, because black has all of his pieces on the queen side. And white's like, I got a bishop here, I got a knight coming here, I got a rook, I got a bishop, so I'm going to mate you because your pieces are all over here. And these kinds of games are usually not drawn because somebody's right. Either white checkmates black or wins a lot of material trying to mate him, or he doesn't and white's position collapses. That's the point of the Grunfeld for black, is you give white the center and then the center collapses and you win. It's the idea anyway. Okay, queen d2 to play everybody's favorite, bishop h6. Rook e8, knight g3, queen c6. Man, now if I play bishop h6, then white gets mated. Man, chess is hard. Trade bishops and queen g2 mate. So we got black's trying to mate white. So if it was black's turn to move, which it's not, what would black do?
Queen g2.
Queen g2 is a move, but reverse your polarity. Reverse the first two moves. When you play queen g2, you were going to win the bishop on e3 later, right? So reverse it. Like, what's her name? Missy Elliott, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rook takes
Yeah, rook e3 first.
Okay.
Yeah. Your move also wins. So the queen is overworked, and then Geller resigned, and I stopped lecturing about him. No, that's not. No. Okay. So rook f2, because he saw all that. Rook d8. Man, black's game looks great. What's wrong with black's position? Looks good. Smyslov's nickname, as you all know, was the hand. The hand went to the piece and made the right move. Position always looked good. Okay, bishop h6, now that g2 is protected. White wants to take on g6 and play queen f7 mate. Good plan. Now, this reminds me, and I'm sure it reminds you, of the game Kasparov-Portisch from Nixich 83, where basically these 5 things were there from Portisch's point of view, and then Kasparov mated him. And then Portisch's king actually ran up the board while he's getting mated. This reminds me of that because this looks very similar over here. Like, you can checkmate me, I'll put my pieces away from my king. And then hopefully you don't get checkmated, but hopefully. Okay, rook d7, very similar to rook f2. Rook f2 defending g2, rook f7 defending f7. Knight e4, Morphy would be proud, bringing more pieces into the attack. So I'm guessing if you just keep taking, I play rook e1, and then rook e8's gonna be mate. Man, rook e8's tough. Let's see if he did that. Nope. See, I was analyzing this. And then I was getting worried about rook e1. Maybe I worry too much. Or not enough. And if you take on f5, I was going to take on f5. King's not so good. This king here. So if bishop takes rook, then mate, which half of you didn't see. And then I want to play rook g5 check, and then that's not good for you. I want to play rook takes, not good for you. So yeah, black's king is a little iffy. That's an important variation. Not sure if that's the right variation, but that's... And I guess I could have played queen b8 mate. Yeah, that would have been even better. Let's play queen b8. Man, there we go. Chess without engines is hard. That looks good too. I'm sure that's the variation that's important. Okay, so he played c4, which is...
Explosive.
Right. Okay, and the bishop retreated, and he doubled up on the bubble up. So did white. Takes. Takes. Now that is called a... It's a word you can't pronounce. That'll help.
Well, I can't pronounce it, so.
Right. Anybody? F takes g6.
Oh,
What?
Zwischenzug.
That's the Zwischenzug. Yeah. It's an in-between move. What's funny is we're not threatening h7 now, but if you take my queen, then it's mate. Also checkmate, because the bishop's protecting the h-pawn. Also, this is pretty annoying, because that's checkmate, and that's checkmate. So that was a good attacking move. I'm guessing queen g6, gotta guess something. Oh, and f6, never play f6. I wonder what happens on queen g6. So if I trade, now I'm threatening rook f8 mate, and if you go here, bishop h7 mate. Also, this is good defensive for white. No, that's not good. No. Yeah. Okay, so he played f6, queen g5. That's what you guys were thinking. No? Yeah. So I want to play double, triple check, and if you take my queen, rook f8 is mate. I got another rook. I got two rooks. One for each of you. Yeah. And then this move looks pretty good too. And this looks pretty good. All right, so queen g5, queen d7, defense. Then he played king g1, an amazing move. Man, what does black do? I mean, is king g1 a waiting move, or is there a reason? I guess there's no back rank mate for black ever, because my king can go to f2 later when my rooks go down.
Maybe it's to get it off the diagonal of the bishop.
It is, because if you play something like h3, then sometimes queen h3 is good, because we've discovered double, triple check. Okay, bishop g7, rook takes, rook g4, takes, check, takes. Nice. And then he resigned. Well, first of all, white's up material. First of all. Second of all, if you take this, and I take this, now you know why he played king g1. Because if he played his king was on h1, this would win for black. Very lucky he saw that. Lucky. Not lucky. And then if you take the queen, this looks good for white. Because I'm gonna queen here with mate. Yeah, it's annoying. Queening with mate is tough to stop. Yeah. Okay, so very nice game from Geller. I wonder if King G1's the best move. If it is, he was cheating with a computer in 1965. Yeah, they're like, what? All right. So
What was Black's blunder? Anything?
no, he did nothing wrong. Let's see. There's too many lines. Yeah, this says everything wins. Yeah, it doesn't even like that move much, but it wins. Yeah. Proving he wasn't cheating with the computer. Well, when White's playing bishop h6, f5, queen f4, and just keeps going, he's going to win. Black has to do something about that earlier. Yeah. See, this is why we wanted to play this with White. Hikaru and I were looking at this line, but then Fiddler didn't let us. Darn. Yeah. Yeah, it seems like the insertion of the moves knight a5, bishop d3, that didn't help Black.
Right.
That just took the pressure off of d4. So that can't be good.
And that knight never moved again.
No, yeah, stay on a5. Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, that's very similar to what happened in Kasparov Portisch too. It was knight a5, bishop d3, then I'd stay on a5. So not good. Who would have thought Smyslov would make a bad move? Not I. But at least they didn't spell quarterfinal right. That's good. Right out of room. Yeah. All right. Close. Okay. All right. And then Geller won this famous game against Fischer. This game is featured in my 60 memorable games. Fischer's like, I was winning and gave 500 pages of analysis. And then they said, no, you weren't. And I don't know. I never read that analysis. Instead, he made a one-move blunder and resigned. Also good. 67, Fischer was pretty good. So it was a very sharp Sicilian. I played this with Black. I've had Black in this position many times. Okay, I don't know that move. I play the move a6. And as you all know, this variation of the Sozin, it's also called the Fischer Sozin, which is funny because Fischer was white. This variation, as you all know, is called the Velimirovich attack, named after Grandmaster Attack. I mean Velimirovich. The Queen a5, I don't know. That's an unknown move to me. Okay, castles. And what's funny is, in most of his career, when Fischer played the Sozin, he didn't play the Velimirovich attack. He castled kingside and played f4. So him play queen e2 and castles queenside is not his usual recipe. Okay, and then both sides checkmate each other, as was the style at the time. Yeah, and this is a very talked about position. White sacked a piece, and White's playing for mate. And even if you analyzed these positions before with preparation, without engines, you really don't know if you're right. You hope you're right. Now I could turn an engine on like for 3 days and I'll be right. Especially if I have 3 engines. Then I can try a Komodo and Stockfish and say, okay, analyze this while I sleep. And then it looks 30 moves ahead and says this. Back then you were like, yeah, this is winning. And then you miss a move and then you're not winning. So I don't think this is preparation, but could be. Anyway, he played rook f5. And if I remember correctly, which I don't, in my 60 memorable games, I think he says rook f4 is better. But he writes like all kinds of pages of analysis showing that White's winning. Now, I have a better idea. There we go. That's better than his pages of analysis. So White sacrificed a piece, and both sides are mating each other. The computer wants to play here and then here. What? What's that got to do with anything? Then says White is slightly better. So, all right. And now it says it's equal. That's the problem. Computers say everything's equal. All right, so he played rook f5, attacking the queen. Queen to b4. Queen f1. So Fischer wants to go take, on f6 and checkmate him. Keep taking. So for example, if I play a6, that's a good move. Like you could go here, and then take with the queen if you want to be cute, and then mate. You might take with the bishop if you don't want to be cute, but all right, who doesn't want to be cute?
Right.
Okay, so Fischer played queen f1, and he's like, raw f6. Okay. Then he played knight takes e4. Now you can't take on f6. And then in this position, he resigned. Man, harsh. Queen b7, what's happening? Oh no, I'm sorry. He played a3. I knew he didn't resign, I knew he played a3. Queen b7, queen f4, bishop a4. And I think in this position, he said queen f4 was a blunder and wrote pages of analysis. Okay, let's see if he's right. Nope, he's just lost. Yeah. So queen f4, and then bishop a4, I think he missed. Because here, white's going to start attacking black's king with moves like queen h6 and rook h5. It's going to get annoying. But after bishop a4, black's going to checkmate white first. So queen g4, threatening mate on g7, bishop f6, rook f6, bishop b3, and now we're threatening mate. In this position, I'm wondering why I can't take on f6. Because if I can take on f6, what's Fischer doing? Why is he playing this way? If I take with the pawn, which seems like a blunder, you could take the knight. Then if I take the queen, this is the same mate we just looked at. But I'm wondering if I can take with a knight on f6. I don't see why I can't, but I like this move better. Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of pressure on G8.
There's a lot of attack, although black is up a rook.
There's a lot of pressure on G8. What about, I mean, the bishop's on B3?
Yeah. You could take and play queen G8, but I have a lot of rooks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but after bishop B3, unfortunately, black's threatening mate in 2 with bishop A2 check and queen B2 mate. Also, black's up a rook. I'm sorry, black's up a knight. So here he resigned. And it says like plus 1,000 for black. So can you take on f6 with the knight? Yeah, you can. But you're like better. You're slightly better, it says. Not winning. Yeah. So the question is, where did Fischer go wrong? We have engines now. So that's good. So yeah, rook f5 is a bad move. And then queen f1's a blunder. Yeah. So bishop c3 is still a draw. And then this move loses. Good to have engines. Don't have to do the work yourself. Yeah. And so these really sharp Sicilians, where both sides are getting mated, like if you were top 10 in the world, like these guys are, your seconds and your machines figure this out. You can't be losing at the board like this. It's terrible. Now, and so that's why people are mad, because all games end in draws now. Because they're like, well, this loses, I'm not playing this. And then they play something else. And then if it's really, really complicated, my computer figures this out in seconds. But they could have computers running all night in more complicated positions. And as far as I know, nobody plays queen a5 anymore in this position. So there must be some line here where, well, you can see the computer really likes white. So the computer's just not playing crazy like Fischer and sacking everything. Yeah. And supposedly, or as Josh would say, the computer, Geller would analyze these positions more than other people. And that was why Fischer was so good. One of the reasons was these kinds of openings with lots of preparation, he out-prepared everybody. He was analyzing these positions at home for hours, and I think Geller, that's not a guy he out-prepared. That was Geller's bread and butter. So he didn't get a winning position out of the opening. The game just ended immediately. Okay, Paul Keres, 1973. Flip the board again, no. Okay, and Geller's white. And we finally have a Ruy Lopez. They should all be Ruy Lopez's. And this is every game ever played ever. Okay, and this position, normally instead of d6, black plays b5 and then plays d6. And here those moves were omitted. And when white plays d4 early, black can play bishop g4. So normally white plays h3. d4 is more interesting. And Geller likes more interesting. So he played d4. And then knight d7. This is just good for white. So this game is sort of dated because we're basically letting white do what he wants. And he's not playing h3, which would stop bishop g4. So he's losing a tempo. Because if white wants to play d4 in the Ruy Lopez, he has to deal with bishop g4, where his knight's pinned and his d-pawn's attacked. If black's going to go here, there's no reason to play h3 right away. And Keres had his own way of playing the Ruy Lopez, but unfortunately this wasn't his day. Okay, so bishop e3, bishop f6. This is the idea of knight d7. I've played knight d7 in similar positions. The bishop gets to go to f6 because the knight's not there, and we pressure d4 that way. And so there's a big fight on the queen's side, but white's winning that fight because white has a lot more space. So like today, no grandmaster would take black here, get this position with black. This looks terrible. Too passive. Yeah. There's the breakthrough. This actually reminds me of the game that I won in the Georgia Open a few months ago, where I was white in the first game. This is a very similar position. And we had a King's Indian. So take, knight takes. And black wins a pawn, so white resigned. Now if my student was black, I would yell at them because it's move 17 and these haven't moved and this is pinned and then black's taking a pawn. Of course, black has to take that pawn because white's running over black. Bishop g5. This isn't good because here comes the knight. Man, it's not good. It's threatening everything. Ugh, terrible. f6 is no good either because that opens up this diagonal. Man. Yeah, this is terrible. But knight e7 I would never play. Never. You couldn't get me to play knight e7. Here comes all that stuff I said. Yeah, and I think this is why this game is famous. He took on f7. Because he's sacking all his pieces, because black has real active play here. No. And this is pinned again. Terrible. Yeah. Yeah, if you take the knight, your king's in a world of hurt. I'm guessing bishop b3 check and knight g5 check both win. I'm sure they both win. But this really wins, because I said so. Without my engine. With my engine, it also wins. Is bishop b3 better? No, knight g5 is better. Good. Yeah, you're losing your queen, because this wins your queen, obviously. And if you decide not to lose your queen, I was going to play bishop b3, but I didn't see queen h3, so I'll do that. And then if here, queen h3, man, the truth hurts. This isn't mate? Oh, it's not. This is mate. Yeah. And then if king here, then mate. Okay, so after knight f7, he wisely played queen a5. Knight takes g5. Now the diagonal to the king is open, and the h file is open, these squares aren't defended, so black's king doesn't last very long. And as is usual with sacrificial attacks that work, most of black's pieces are really far from his king, other side of the board. And it's a minimal material investment. It's like a queen. Okay, rook f8, bishop takes, wins his piece back. He's not even down material anymore. So, yeah, it's terrible for black. Okay, and he resigned here because of that. Yeah, and actually, if I remember correctly, and I don't, I think Keres died about 75. This is like the end of his life, basically. And Keres is another guy that I could do, I'm sure I have, lecture of great players of the past. Keres' best chess was before Geller. He was probably in the 40s and 50s was his best. And as you all know, Keres is from what country?
Ukraine.
Close. Estonia. And on the 5 crown note of Estonia is a picture of Keres. He's on the money, just like in the US. Our chess players are, no wait. And I have one in the cash register. I have a 5 crown. I had one and I lost it, and then some guy went to Estonia and brought it back for the chess club here. I think that's the only reason he went. Yeah. So yeah, Keres is pretty good. Most people think Keres and Korchnoi were the 2 best players not to become world champion. And you could throw in Rubinstein and Geller. Those guys are pretty good also. And last but not least, against Portisch, and don't blink. And the problem with Portisch, most of his famous games are him losing. Korchnoi beating him, Kasparov beating him, Geller beating him, Karpov beating him. He was top 10 in the world, but his most famous, Fischer beating him. Fischer beat him in a famous game where Fischer sacrificed 2 rooks for a queen, and the queen was trapped in the corner. And, now, Portisch was so good that I played his brother when I lived in Europe. His brother crushed me. So, and nobody knows who his brother is. Well, I do. His brother is Ferenc Portisch. He's an IM. Portisch is top 10 in the world for a long time. And if I remember correctly, I think it was the day before, my dad's birthday is April 5th, 1937. I think Portisch's is April 4th, 1937. So he was always better than my dad by 1 day. So he couldn't catch up on the lack of knowledge. Okay, so another Ruy Lopez, obviously. This game ends really fast. Not an advertisement for playing the Ruy Lopez. Okay. And this is the main line. And he plays h3, as I said earlier. This is the main move. And here, black has many moves. They're all theory. Knight a5, rook e8, bishop b7, h6, knight d7 have all been played thousands of times in Grandmaster play. Portisch played h6, d4, rook e8. And this is called the Smyslov variation. And problem with the Smyslov variation is white gets to get his knight around here, and people started playing the Zaitsev variation because black didn't play h6 and would play bishop f8 quickly, and as a result, white couldn't do this maneuver. So people started playing bishop b7 and then rook e8 and then bishop f8. And now you got more than one guy on the e-pawn, which is defended twice, so there's no time for knight f1 and getting your knight around. Now, the reason the Smyslov variation existed, and which doesn't now, is because people were afraid to play the Zaitsev for the obvious reason. After rook e8, people were afraid of knight g5. Obviously, after h6, we're not worried about knight g5. And then people went here and said, so? And then Wesley said, hello. And for you in this room, but not on the internet, today is Wesley So's birthday. And how old is he? Also, you're supposed to say, who's Wesley So? That's a funny, yeah, there you go. What do you think?
23.
25. And he played a match today with the number 3 player in India, Vidya Gujrathi, on chess.com, and so won the match. So gets to continue on to the speed finals against Nakamura eventually. Anyway, then grandmasters who occasionally will play a quick draw, I would never do that. They said, ooh, I have an idea, let's do this. And then there's hundreds of grandmaster games that do go like that, and they draw. Okay. So, all right. Anyway, before that was common, people played h6 and said, no knight g5 for you. Okay. And then white gets to swing his knight around in g3 because black lost time with h6. Doesn't matter much, but okay, it's nice for white. Queen d7, takes, knight h5, confusing the audience. Yeah. So after this game, people stopped playing queen d7 because they were like, oh, well, obviously if you take the knight, you lose your queen. And if you trade queens, white plays the Zwischenzug, knight takes f6 check, and some people think this pawn structure is not good. Because it ain't no good. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So, Portisch played queen e7. That was an interesting maneuver. Queen d7 to e7. Now, that exact tactic, that was your game with Jill that we just looked at today.
Yeah.
Where you take the knight and then you play the Zwischenzug. Very similar.
Yeah.
Okay. Knight h4. And the truth hurts. Here comes the knight g6, and for good measure, knight f5. For those of you who are confused, this f-pawn is pinned. So you can't take the knight on g6. I like the way he keeps moving his queen and white keeps attacking it. It's not good. Yeah. And actually, another reason not to play h6, Smyslov variation, it weakens g6. If the pawn was on h7, there is no knight g6. So now there's knight g6. Okay, takes, knight a5. How come every game black plays knight a5 then gets mated? Maybe the knight doesn't belong on a5. And it's Portisch again. Damn. In 67 he lost. In 83 he lost to Kasparov. Gotta keep his knight off a5. Bishop g5, recommended by Josh. Okay, and the obvious reason, if you take, white has mate in 2.
Yeah.
If you're taking notes, mate in 2 is good. Check, and then mate. All right.
Mate's good because you win.
Right, now, if you take it with the pawn, then this looks pretty good. Threatening queen h8 mate. I think you're playing queen h8 mate next move. I don't think you can stop it. Can anybody stop it? I can't. All right. So he probably didn't take the bishop. Queen d7. Good maneuvering. Queen d7, queen e7, queen d7. All right. Rook a d1, Morphy style. Attacking the queen. Bishop d6. Bishop h6. And black's king is perfectly safe. As Liam would say, just kidding. Takes, check. It's still pinned. Queen f6, threatening knight g6 check, and then queen h8 mate.
Yikes.
Anybody want to stop that? If you don't like that, I could play knight f5, threatening queen h8 mate and queen g7 mate. Also good. Don't like that?
Rook e6.
In this position?
Yeah.
Did you stop my knight g6 and queen h8 mate?
Oh no. That's sorry.
You did, because you could play bishop f8, then queen f8 mate. You get the e8 square, yeah. So he played king g8, and then rook e3. with the idea of rook g3. So my question is, I don't know the answer. I know the answer. What happens on knight g6? I couldn't figure it out. I figured it out. Let's see if the class can. I don't feel so bad for it taking me like 4 seconds to figure it out, since the class is confused.
Knight h7? I mean, king h7.
King h7, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Knight h7 is interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so rook e3, and now he resigned. Obviously, that's annoying. And the only move I see that makes any sense is this. And then after this, I don't see any move that makes any sense. Yeah. So Portisch is pretty good to get beat like that. That was a beating and a half. Yeah. And that's the way Geller did it. Geller wasn't winning 90 move endgames. Geller was attacking. That's why the opening edition was called the Geller Gambit. Not the Geller squeeze you in 90 moves. Geller was super aggressive, played really aggressive openings, and he knew them well. He did a lot of work. So if you're going to study chess all day and study openings, might as well study really complicated sharp openings. Then when you get them, and you know better than your opponent, even though you're playing top 10 in the world, he can't go to move 25. It's crushed. Yeah. And I think after this game, people said, all right, let's not play queen d7 anymore in this position. Because after takes knight h5, I think you got to go into this terrible endgame. Then we wouldn't know this game, because white would have won or drawn a terrible endgame for black. Who cares about that? But if white's sacking all his pieces, bishop g5, then it's great. Yeah. So it's a good thing Portisch kept moving his queen back and forth. Heads up D. Yeah. I could do a lecture on Portisch too. He's pretty good. But most of his famous games he lost. Most of them were him losing. And there's a very funny Portisch, Tal, and Korchnoi. I want to get this right. Korchnoi beat Tal, Tal beat Portisch, and Portisch beat Korchnoi. Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. Sometimes you just have a bad record against somebody. When it can be worse than you. And then all the grandmasters I know who are very good, they're like, oh yeah, I've played that guy 6 times and I'm 6-0. And they're like the same rating. But that's just what happened. That was what happened with Nakamura and Carlsen for a long time. After 25 games, Nakamura had 10 draws and 15 losses against Carlsen. No wins. And Shirov and Kasparov, Shirov never beat Kasparov in like 25 years of playing him. Because sometimes that's the clash of styles. So Portisch, most of his losses are him getting crushed. And most of Portisch's wins are boring technical displays. So his greatest games are him losing. So that's unfortunate for him. The truth hurts. Yeah. Kind of player he was. Geller's the opposite. Geller's like Tal. His famous games are he sacks all his pieces. When he loses, you're like, well, he sacked all his pieces and lost. Those aren't as famous. Like, he's down 4 pieces. So, you know? But when he wins, like, ooh, look at that. Look how he sacked all his pieces. Yeah. But I like the way Geller used all of his pieces. He played bishop g5 and rook a1, and he had everything there. And that's why this is called the Spanish bishop. And the truth hurts over there. Yeah. All right, so that was Geller. Go Geller. One of the top 2 famous Gellers of all time. Okay, and he couldn't make the spoon bend, but he could make the pieces bend. You guys will get that later if you look up Uri Geller. All right, and as Gene Wilder likes to say,
Class dismissed.
well, class is dismissed, but yeah.